Hello and welcome back to my channel and welcome to my library. What is she doing with her arms? She's not sure. She's never sure. I'm going to do voiceovers for this because I've recorded it and it sounded awful, but I want to talk to you about my books. Those aren't mine though, so don't look at those. Look at these books. That's it, that's the cold open. So as you can see, my shelves are absolutely massive. There is quite a lot to go through. So I'm going to start with essentially my favourites and work my way around. Up here we have my collector's fantasy stuff. So I collect the really pretty Terry Pratchett stuff, but I also have my babies, my pride and joy. These, I hope it focuses. There we go. No, there we go. So these are the 3rd edition signed with their maps versions of Lord of the Rings, which my mum found in a charity shop, so of course. We also have the illustrated edition of The Hobbit, which is really, really pretty. The illustrations in that are really pretty. So this is the actual copy that my dad read to me as a kid. So it is falling apart, but it's beautiful, and that lives up there with the rest of the hobbits and werewolves and other dragony type things. So that's my prestigious fantasy aisle. That is now not focusing. There we go. Oh, there we go. So my prestigious fantasy aisle. These are technically not mine. These are my dad's. My dad collected the Just William books, not on purpose, because he's not really a book collector, but these are just all the books that he kind of read. So they are absolutely beautiful. You've got old classic Enid Blytons and things like that are just so pretty. They are falling apart, they are, but like I had to put them on the shelves because they were just living in boxes. Underneath that we have historical fiction. Now I'm not going to dwell on this too much because historical fiction, I kind of love it and hate it at the same time. I don't read it very often, but my favourite at the moment is The Rabbit Girls. I am 100% biased because my friend wrote this, so she published that with Lake Unison, which is the new Amazon imprint. We then have a shelf full of things that these aren't mine. So some of these shelves I will explain are not mine. So these are my parents' books that when I organised the shelves, I didn't know where to put them. So they just kind of live there. And then I have my absolutely ginormous books at the bottom. So the Grey's Anatomy, again, is not mine. That's my brother's because he'd studied human biology and things like that when he was at uni. But the Sherlock, the Oscar Wilde and the Jane Austens are all mine. And I also have this, which I don't know if anyone else has seen this. This is absolutely beautiful. So this is a cookbook, but it's based on like pretty dinners from the Telegraph Kitchen, and it's absolutely gorgeous. So that was a birthday present a few years ago, which was absolutely fantastic. Right, we'll come back up and we'll work our way along here. So these are my expensive books. These are books that are so old and so pretty that they have to be kept out of reach of children, basically. And then I've got my novel Cure. I've got some more historical stuff up here from when I was doing my research for my novel. But these are so I've got the Shakespeare works there that is literally falling apart with how old it is, and like a Keats. These are my babies. On the shelf below, we have the classic Arthur story. So you've got this is a hardback, like leather bound. Look how beautiful and shiny that is. That is absolutely gorgeous. Anne Frank, which is just sad, but it's a nice copy. We then also have, look how gorgeous this old copy of Treasure Island is. This is just absolutely beautiful. So I've got quite a few like old books that need some tender love of care. I've started collecting the Penguin Classic canvases. They're really pretty. So I got a few more leather bound. They're not really leather bound, but that leather effect. And then this is my Woman in Black, which I just think that cover is just absolutely gorgeous. So these are kind of like my classics that live up here. Okay. So the next two shelves, these are books that I studied either at school or at university, and then they are organised into which groups they're in. So we have all the classics and things at the top and a few more there, and then these are kind of the odd ones that kind of depended on which module I was studying. So let's start with here. So we've got the retro orange classics. We've got, this is my dad's. I bought this for my dad. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is his favourite, cute little short one. But then some non-fiction tucked in there. We then have a whole stack of black Penguin classics with a lot of gothic fiction in there. So Picture of Dorian Gray is the most recent one that I've purchased. You'll have seen that in my book haul from the other day. But I've also got the Iliad, because I do have another copy of that further down, which I'll show you in a sec. But I wanted to keep that all together. And then I've got this copy of Philip Pullman's Grimm Fairy Tales. Now, if you watched my Ride or Die tag, you'll know that if he wrote anything, I was having it. We then have the Blue Classics. So I've only got a couple of those. I'm not too fussed about collecting any more of those. And then we go back. These are my white Penguin classics. These are my contemporaries. So you've got some James Joyce that I studied at university. This is the longest book I ever read, and thankfully I only had to read 2 chapters. And that goes all the way over to my Gothic section as well. So my Bram Stoker's, which is my favourite, and some Mysteries of Udolpho. I really enjoyed studying these books, but I'm glad I never have to look at them again. As I said, this row is a bit more chaotic. So we've got some of the red vintage ones. Longest book ever, I swear to God. And then we move into the more contemporary ones. Obviously these aren't contemporary, these are just shorter than the others, and I didn't really know where else to put these, seeing as I bought these originally to study. This is actually a present from my brother, this copy, and it is really, really pretty, but I just didn't really know where else to put it. So that's why this shelf feels a bit like a muddle, is because it kind of is. So yeah, we've got our Chaucers, we've got some more Treasure Islands. I think that's like, and Kidnapped. So that's quite cool. These are the ones that I studied at school and at uni. So these 3 I studied at school, so I've kept them together. This is obviously another Caledocini, so I've just kept it with the Kite Runner. Genuinely the saddest book I've ever read. So, so sad. And then these ones I studied for uni. Now I did my dissertation on these 2. Would not recommend either of them, but because I studied them, I just can't quite bring myself to get rid of them. And then we have non-fiction here. These are the books that I studied when I was doing language. Everyone tells you to read Stephen King's On Writing, and whether you like Stephen King's writing or not, there is some fantastic advice in that, so I would definitely recommend it. And then I've got some other, like Fight Your Language, David Crystal. If you study any kind of English, those tend to be the books that people ask you to read. There is a gap here because some other things used to live there, but I'll talk to you about that in a sec. This is where I kind of fit all my stuff that doesn't fit anywhere else. So I've got some like note cards, because I like to send notes to people, some old jewellery boxes. I've been to Rome, so I've got my 2... these are the only 2 snow globes I have, from New York and from Rome, and then I've got some little board games in there. Whew, she's out of breath. Right, on the row below, so we have all my plays. There are some obviously funnier plays in there, but this is a lot of plays, and then at the other end is my poetry. So I have obviously the poetry stuff that I was telling you about before. Obviously right in the middle is the kind of stuff that is in between. So we have the Odyssey, the Iliad, and Dante's Inferno. This was something else that I studied for my university course, and I genuinely couldn't bring myself to... I mean, look how gruesome that is. What a perfect depiction of what's inside the book, like a monster eating a man and stuff like that. Super gross, but I love it. And then I have the rest of my poetry at the end. Now, if you have been to see that horrendous Cats, and you're like, what even is it? Read this collection of poetry. This is where the poet's original idea came from, and it's really good. It's really good fun. So that's my poetry collection. We have my contemporary stuff here. So these are the books that I read whilst I was at uni, but not necessarily for uni. These books here are arranged literally from like here to here. These are books written by my lecturers. So I bought a whole bunch of them because I wanted to see if their writing style was similar to what they were teaching me to do. And because it was contemporary, it then led into my YA contemporary. Again, I wasn't really sure where else to put this, so I've just kind of kept it all together. And then the bottom shelf, these are, again, are books that are not mine, so I don't really want them on my shelves. And then those are mine. These are like my board games and my colouring books. My family went through a stage of just buying me loads of colouring books. So we've got like, yeah, we've classic comic book, and then of course the Harry Potter one, and Cats ones, and manga, and all this sort of stuff. I don't know why my family suddenly became really obsessed with doing that, but they did. Yeah, romanticism and English language one from when I was studying. That basically holds up that shelf because that shelf isn't strong enough to hold up those heavy books all by itself. Okay, the shelf you're probably most excited to see is my kids fantasy shelf. So these are all my Harry Potter ones. Obviously Paradise Lost, it was just too tall to fit anywhere else, but it was shorter than the Harry Potter ones, so that worked. We've got my Harry Potters. I don't know why I have 2 of the Half-Blood prints, but I do. I also have some Harry Potter notebooks, then some C.S. Lewis, and some other childhood favourites. Shannara, again, just fit perfectly there. And then I have Obviously my lovely Grace and Honey candles, which I cannot bring myself to burn. They smell too good. A chocolate frog box, because I thought it was really cute. And I also bought myself like a little cauldron. Then we come down to my YA collection. So it's a long list, but basically I've tried to keep it. I'm just going to like back up so that you can see it properly. So as you can see here, I have my series kind of all organised. They are not in any kind of order other than this series was massive, so this had to stay together. This series worked really well together. I've got a random Neil Gaiman stuck in the middle. And then you may notice as we go down, there are some books here where they're facing the wrong way. This is something I've started doing recently, where basically I turn books that I don't want to keep around, but I put them in places of where other books should be. So I have lent Starcross, which is up here, to my friend Kate, so that is where that should be, and then Dreamless and Goddess. And then down here, these are series that I have started more recently, so I haven't completed the Cruel Prince series yet, so that's why there's those two gaps there. And then below that we have my standalone fantasies and some dystopia, and I've got some graphic novels in there, and then I've got some more childish fantasy, and then just some more classic fantasy that kind of goes along to that. I again had no idea where to put Midnight Moon, so I've just left that there. Below that, this is all of my self-published stuff. So again, we've got another copy of my anthology there. If you watched my office tour, you'll have seen all of that. But then we've obviously got some others in there as well, all my self-published stuff. And then we've got the comedy stuff that kind of goes along to there. And then like silly books and stuff that my parents have bought me in the meantime. These shelves are technically not mine. None of the books in these are mine. So we've got like fantasy fiction and crime and stuff like this. These are literally just my brother's shelves down here. My brother moved out and took loads of his stuff, so some more of his stuff is at the side there. That's why I'm not zooming in on that too much. So the only books that are really mine on this shelf are the from here along. This is where I've kept all my feminist stuff, and then I've got a H, because that's my name. Now, you may have noticed these little hook things. So my mum used to sell wedding dresses, and this is where we used to store them before we had a library. So the library is definitely a my thing. But yeah, so those are my shelves. I've got too many. I've got too many books, and obviously I've got my TBR shelf upstairs, which you'll have seen in my other tour, so I will put that in the link below. Thank you for watching my video. I'm sorry it was utter chaos. They always fucking are. Welcome, and have a nice day.